Hello friends, this is Grace here at the Comfy Nest with Grace, and today I'm going to transform this dollar spot sign. I actually got it at a thrift store, but it is originally from Target, from their dollar spot from last year, this Happy Easter sign. So I'm just going to give it, it has a palette board look to it, and I'm just going to give it a coat of paint, and I chose a couple of colors of green. And you'll see I'm going to add a butterfly to it later, but right now you'll see I'm going to speed up the video, but you'll watch it transform from this Happy Easter sign to a general palette board looking sign, kind of with shiplap look to the middle of it, with two different colors of green. They are both from Waverly. One of them is called Celery and the other one is called, let's see, I think it's Moss Green. Yes, Moss Green. So I used celery and moss, and I think I even added a little bit of their off-white, that plaster color. So enjoy the music and check out this transformation simply with paints, and then we'll move on to adding some embellishments and some words later on. Okay, and once I've got some varying colors on those shiplap looking or palette board looking strips of wood, I use the light green, the moss, the plaster, and then the light green and the plaster again. The light green color again by Waverly, it's called Celery. It's one of my favorites actually. I wanted to make sure that that paint was pretty dry before I moved on. And there were a couple of little rough spots because I added the paint on rather quickly. So I smoothed out a couple of the rough spots, especially on the edges. And I wanted to make sure that the paint job was really smooth. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to dry brush some of the other colors on top of each other. Although here you see me, I decided I didn't want that dark green to be just so dark. So I put a layer of a very light coat of celery over it. And now I'm just adding a little bit of the moss, the darker color, onto where the plaster and the celery are. So I use this technique a lot to just distress the paint job, make it look like it's really old and weathered and chippy. And I just use the same 3 colors over and over again to give the distressed look throughout the whole paint job. So that's what I'm doing here. Hey, listen, I'm happy to be here on YouTube, you guys. If you know anything about the Comfy Nest, you know that my Facebook page has been hacked. I have no control over my business page over on Facebook. I have no access to Facebook whatsoever. So I have come on over and I'm spending a little more time over here on YouTube, sharing my new content here on YouTube. And I'm thrilled to do that, thrilled to make new connections, thrilled to reconnect with my followers from over on Facebook. Either way, I'm so happy that you're here. Thanks for hanging out with me. I would love it if you'd tell me that you came by, that you stopped by to watch even just a part of the video. Say hello, let me know where you're coming in from so I can comment back and say hello back to you. I really appreciate that. Okay, here, this butterfly came from the Dollar Tree. I bought all of the ones that they had left. There were about 5 or 6 of them at my local Dollar Tree. I bought all of them because they're really large and they have a beautiful shape. So what you see me doing is just adding a coat of the color plaster on one side of that and on all of the edges. I'm going to dry that plaster, colored paint, that's Waverly. Plaster is the name of the color. And I'm going to dry that off. And then I'm going to use one of the napkins from one of my napkin bundles. I sell napkin bundles over on my website, thecomfynestwithgrace.com. And this is one of the ones, this one is from, I believe, the Florals Galore napkin bundle sets. But look closely at the bundles. Many of the bundles that I offer have florals in them. So you may want to check them all out over there on thecomfynestwithgrace.com. But I painted the butterfly white. Now we're going to add this floral onto the top. I just think it's so beautiful. It's floral roses, but it has these green leaves with multiple colors of green on them, and they match these colors of green paint by Waverly perfectly. So they're going to coordinate really well together. So I put a coat of Mod Podge. Actually, you can use Mod Podge. I'm using Liquitex gel medium, liquid gel medium as a decoupage medium, but you can use Mod Podge. You can use any decoupage medium that you have on hand. And I put a coat on the wood, on the wooden butterfly, right over the paint. And then I laid the napkin down, and then I add another coat over the top to seal that in. Afterwards. But first I'm going to dry this off here and make sure that that first layer of the Liquitex, the decoupage medium, is dry before I go ahead and top coat it. You want to, because it's a napkin, I do like to add a top coat over it as well, just to make sure that it's nice and sealed into the wood. But first it really needs to be dry. After it is dry, you can go ahead and use a sanding block to take off the excess paper from the edges of your butterfly. So I used my X-Acto knife around the top of the butterfly to get the bulk of it off because there was quite a bit there. And now you're just watching me use the sanding block to sand the edges off. I found these fantastic sanding files. They're called needle files. I got them off of Amazon. They work really well for tight spaces like right there by the body of the butterfly. It's kind of hard to get in there with a sanding block, especially my sanding block is really thick and chunky. So these these needle files have been fabulous for getting into those tight spaces. And there are hordes of them over on Amazon. I went through the effort to read through the reviews and pick out a set. I bought them. I love them. They work out great. You can find them in my Amazon store if you want the one set that I suggest that I use. If you want a suggestion, you can go over there and check that out. Okay, now to decide, I needed to basically decide what I'm going to do with this butterfly. Before I decided on its placement, I grabbed a pouncer, just one of those foam pouncers that you can use for stenciling, and I added a little bit of green, one of the green colored paints. This one is the color Moss. It's the darker color. And I put it around the edges just to give that butterfly, just to anchor it a little bit, so that the florals had like a stopping point, and it kind of anchors it and shows you where those butterfly wings end. So I did that with a little bit of that moss color green. Now I'm taking Mod Podge and I am top coating. Now my Mod Podge is glossy. I kind of decided to try to use the glossy one. I don't use it very often, but I just thought it would be really pretty on this butterfly to have that glossy sheen. So I did it on the butterfly, then decided to do the whole board in that Mod Podge. And the reason I top coated the board before I put the butterfly on was I wanted the whole thing, because it has a sheen, it has a high gloss shine to it, I wanted the whole thing to obviously match and to coordinate. So I needed to get that high gloss that I put on the butterfly. I wanted to have it on the base project too, the surface itself. So I went ahead and added that glossy matte, or the glossy Mod Podge, onto both, and used my hairdryer on a cool setting to dry them. And then I needed just to decide about the positioning of the butterfly and what words to put with it. I really wanted some kind of phrase on there. So I was thinking if I just centered that butterfly right in the top center as the focal point. I have this fantastic transfer design. This is a reusable adhesive transfer from Chalk Couture. I am a designer at Chalk Couture. I have been since the company, almost since the company started. So if you have any questions about how the system works, you sure can ask me. But the Mod Podge is helping to protect, the Mod Podge that I put on the surface helps to protect both the surface and the transfer from sticking too strongly to the surface. They are adhesive and they are a very strong adhesive. So I usually fuzz the transfer, which I did off camera. I just used my jeans and I fuzzed that sticky transfer a couple of times on my jeans just to add a little fuzz to the back because it's brand new. Now I am using the words on the transfer which say dibs on forever with you, but I'm not going to use, there's a little heart on the bottom with an arrow, I believe, or like a little design, and I'm not using the heart or the design. I just wanted the words, and I wanted to reposition them, which is very easy to do with a Chalk Couture transfer. It's like a stencil, except it is adhesive. So it stays in place when you put it down, and it's silk screen, so you can get incredible detail. Really easy to just push that paste through the silk screen and get the design onto your board. You can use these on anything really. These stencil designs, these transfers that we use, can be used on practically any surface. Chalk Couture we have both the paste, which I'm using today, which is erasable. It can be used on chalkboards as an erasable formula, or you can use it on this like palette board. This board that I'm doing here now today, obviously, is not erasable. It's a porous board. Even though it's been top coated, it is still a porous surface, and so I won't be able to erase this off here per se, but I can put a top coat on it and make sure that it's sealed in there forever as a permanent design. So I put the forever on first. Now I'm doing the words that go right before that, which say dibs on, and then in a minute you'll see me add the last two words are with you. So it's dibs on forever with you. It's a really sweet font and a sweet sentiment. I think it just goes great with this butterfly and this little board that I found at the thrift store. You guys, I don't know if you're a fan of this, but I love thrift store makeovers. I love them. I love them. So tell me what you think about that. Tell me if you're a thrift store fan, if you love to hit yard sales and tag sales or thrift stores. I love the dollar stores too. I'm definitely a thrifty finder. Let me know if you're a fan of that too, and enjoy watching a little bit of this project come together more. Okay, and after a little bit of dry time, it's time to actually glue on this butterfly. And I just have the frame of the board. I want to make sure I hit the frame of that board and not go over with the glue. So I just use my pencil to mark the top of where I want the glue, where I want to make sure I don't put the glue. And I'm using that pencil mark to know I just stay right below that to put a strip of glue on both sides of the butterfly wings on the top. And I added some also to the bottom of the butterfly on the back end of that butterfly, and then flipped it over, made sure that I had to make sure that I was getting the glue. So it was easier for me to flip the butterfly over so that the wrong side was facing up, and then place the board down and press it on, applying some good pressure there to make sure that it adheres well while that hot glue dries. I hope you enjoyed this project today, you guys, and it inspires you to get your supplies out and make something pretty, have some fun creating. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Help me hit 1,000 channel subscribers so that I can go live, and thanks for stopping by.